personal life was marked by a struggle against deafness, and some of his most important works were composed during the last 10 years of his life, when he was quite unable to hear. Regardless of the struggles endured throughout his life, he continued to persevere, and his accomplishments as a composer were made known throughout his work. Let's take a look at his early years as a child and where his musical talent began. Composer and pianist Ludwig van Beethoven, widely considered the greatest composer of all time, was born on or about December 16, 1770, in the city of Bonn. According to Britannica website, Beethoven had two younger brothers who survived into adulthood, Caspar, born in 1774, and Johann, born in 1776. Beethoven's mother, Maria Magdalena van Beethoven, was a slender, gentle, and deeply moralistic woman. His father, Johann van Beethoven, was a mediocre court singer, better known for his alcoholism than any musical ability. However, Beethoven's grandfather, godfather, and namesake was Bonn's most prosperous and eminent musician, a source of endless pride for young Ludwig. The website also mentions that sometime between the birth of his two younger brothers, Beethoven's father began teaching him music with an extraordinary rigor and brutality that affected him for the rest of his life. Whether in spite of or because of his father's brutal methods, Beethoven was an extremely talented musician from his earliest days and displayed flashes of the creative imagination that would eventually reach further than any other composers before or since. Classic FM states that Beethoven struggles with sums and spelling his entire life and was at best an average student. In fact, some biographers have hypothesized that he may have had a form of mild dyslexia. As he put it himself, music comes to me more readily than words. The website then goes on to say that in 1781, at the age of 10, Beethoven withdrew from school to study music full-time. He was later introduced to Bach, and at the age of 12, Beethoven published his first composition. Now let's take a look at some of his works. Later in life, as he was composing great and immoral works, Beethoven was struggling to come to terms with a shocking and terrible fact, one that he tried so desperately to conceal. He was going deaf. Oftentimes, Beethoven struggled to make out the words spoken to him in any conversation. Almost miraculously, despite his rapidly progressing deafness, Beethoven continued to compose at a furious pace. According to classical archives, from 1803 to 1812, what is known as his middle or heroic period, he composed an opera, 6 symphonies, 4 solo concertos, 5 string quartets, 6 string sonatas, 7 piano sonatas, 5 sets of piano variations, 4 overtures, 4 trios, and 72 songs. The website mentions that his most famous among these were symphonies number 3 through 8, the Moonlight Sonata, the Kreutzer Violin Sonata, and Fidelio, his only opera. In terms of the astonishing output, his period in Beethoven's life is unrivaled by any other composer in history. Despite his extraordinary output of beautiful music, Beethoven was often lonely and frequently miserable throughout his adult life. Short-tempered, absent-minded, greedy, and suspicious to the point of paranoia, Beethoven feuded with his brothers, his publishers, and even his housekeepers. I am now going to discuss his most famous compositions. Somehow, despite his tumultuous personal life, physical infirmity, and complete deafness, Beethoven composed his greatest music, perhaps the greatest music ever composed, near the end of his life. Favorite classical composers state that his greatest late works include Missa Solemnis, a mass that debuted in 1824 and is considered among the finest achievements, and String Quartet number 14, which contains 7 linked movements played without a break. The website goes on to say that Beethoven's Ninth and Final Symphony still remains the illustrious composer's most towering achievement. The symphony's famous choral finale with 4 vocal soloists, a chorus singing the words of Friedrich Schiller's poem Ode to Joy, is perhaps the most famous piece of music in history. While connoisseurs delighted in the symphony's formal complexity, the masses found inspiration in the anthem-like vigor of the choral finale and the concluding invocation of all humanity. In conclusion, Ludwig van Beethoven is widely considered the greatest composer of all time. He is the crucial transitional figure connecting the classical and romantic ages of Western music. Beethoven's body of musical compositions stands with Shakespeare's play at the outer limits of human accomplishments. And the fact Beethoven composed his most beautiful and extraordinary music while deaf is an almost superhuman feat of creative genius. Summing up his life and imminent death during his last days, Beethoven, who was never as eloquent with words as he was with music, borrowed a line that often concluded